Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real, that normal people insist exists? Probate attorney here. I've had many people ask me when the reading of the will is going to take place. I explain to them that only happens in movies. But one of these days I'm going to have one. And hire a mysterious blonde wearing a veil to sit in the corner quietly. Then I'll tell everyone that she inherits everything. Provided, of course, that she must adopt the descendant's cute but troublemaking 6-year-old child no one knew about. Or she can spend the night in a haunted house. Her choice. There will now be a requirement for such a mysterious lady's presence at the reading of my will. Written into my will, along with a handful of burly yet solemn fellows, dressed in stereotypical G-man attire, complete with sunglasses and earpieces. One will be Russian, or at least able to fake the accent consistently, and should only be curtly acknowledged by the others. Every one of them should be entirely vague about how they knew me except from business. And the men should all refuse to acknowledge the presence of the veiled woman, and feign terror if compelled to look at her. My friends and I have an agreement that, if one of us dies, the others hire a good-looking woman in a long black coat and large sunglasses to stand slightly away from everyone at the funeral crying underneath an umbrella or parasol if it's not raining. My father, who is a lawyer, policemen cannot lie to you. This is false. They can and they do. Edit. There's so many replies that I cannot even find some of the ones I'd like to respond to, so I want to leave a general note for those who have asked for a reference. Frazier vs Cupp is the Supreme Court ruling that affirmed the legality of deceptive interrogation tactics in 1969. The ruling is still active. I heard you were smuggling animals. What are you? A cop? You know where I can cop some pangolin? That commercial use of a photograph means selling the photograph. Commercial use means that there is an implied endorsement. You can take and sell photos of Eric Clapton all day long. Put that same photo in an advertisement for a certain guitar without a release and you can be sued. People that think it's illegal to be videotaped in a public space. I saw someone on Nextdoor complaining about my reasonable right to privacy in a public place, when someone was shaming 20 people standing together waiting for takeout. Sorry, that's the opposite of how it works. If big time celebrities can't stop paparazzi from following them and their family 24/7, I have no clue why ordinary people believe that they have the right not to be caught on camera in public. Sovereign citizen stuff. I feel like enough folks have claimed to be sovereign citizens that it's become normal. But no. Generally you can't declare yourself exempt from the laws in effect where you are. My first job while in school was as a law clerk was to respond to pro se writs of habeas corpus from prisoners. One of the first ones I was given was to respond to a guy that claimed he was falsely imprisoned because he had sovereign immunity. He had changed his name to Jesus Christ and claimed that because he was the sovereign, he was not subject to our laws anymore and needed to be released. I remember being very flummoxed on how to respond. I spent entirely too much time on that reply. This feels like the kind of thing they would hand to someone as a prank/hazing. Oh, loony Jesus is locked up again. Let's give that one to the new clerk to break him/her in. Apostrophe. An arrest isn't magically invalidated if the police don't read you your rights on the spot. There could be a whole thread of just misconceptions people have from watching cop TV. Miranda rights protect you from self-incrimination when being questioned by the police for a crime. It doesn't mean they have to Miranda you the second you get arrested. If you aren't questioned, then it doesn't apply. People also think it's illegal not to let them make a phone call after being arrested. Came here to mention the one phone call misconception. They don't have to let you call anyone as long as they give you reasonable access to a lawyer. That's why I love in The Dark Knight when the Joker says I want my phone call and the cop ignores him. Because that's exactly what they would do. Even though many people think so, there has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick if he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter. But even though the law has never existed, it doesn't mean it shouldn't. No jury would convict you. No Danish jury would convict him. As a former lawyer, UK, I lost count of the amount of people that thought jaywalking was a crime. Unless it's a road that specifically states no pedestrians or a motorway, no such offense exists here. Too much American media. It technically is a crime in America, so people think it applies in other places. Even in America, that is on a state level. In some states, it is just on a city level. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your coworkers, despite what your boss might say. Edit. I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's actually illegal nationally for a company to retaliate for discussing wages. They typically just make up some other bullshit reason to fire you instead. Make up some other bullshit reason to fire you for no reason at all, as California is an at-will employment state. This isn't exactly what you're asking for, but I think it's valuable for people to know. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report someone as missing. I would hope not, since every cop drama I've ever watched says the first 48 hours are the most important. If someone has to wait 24 hours, they lost 24 hours of that 48. The crazy thing is that they say it on actual true crime shows, like, don't spread that misinformation. Not quite on point. A lot of people don't understand that co-signing a loan means that you are on the hook for the loan as much as the other person. The car gets repoed, and then they are shocked that their wages are getting garnished. Co-signing is not you saying you think your friend is a cool dude who is good for it. You are saying you will pay for it if they don't. And they want you on the hook because they think there is a good chance the main applicant is a deadbeat. Basically, don't cosign shit for anybody. That's why I prefer the term guarantor, because you guarantee that you'll pay if the other person can't. This is the common term in the UK, mainly experienced it for student rent agreements where parents/family sign on to pay if the renter can't. In my country, some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought, but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without the victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases, of course, but when people say press charges, they believe they can do this via the police. US prosecutor here. In my state, there actually is a mechanism to file a private criminal complaint. Very few people have heard of it, but those that have are often mentally ill and/or conspiracy theorists. Our process is the person files the private criminal complaint with the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor can then either adopt the case and file formal criminal charges, or go in front of a judge with the person and convince the judge that the charges should not proceed. Technically, the judge could force the prosecutor to proceed, but I've never seen it happen. I've also only seen one private criminal complaint get adopted formally. When a private complaint is dismissed by the judge, the person usually files 5 more complaints against the prosecutor, the head prosecutor, the judge, the president judge, sometimes the governor, the president, etc. Then a substitute prosecutor has to come in to dismiss the complaints, which causes a whole new round of private complaints being filed. They are almost always a waste of time, but many times they are at least entertaining. You can go 10 over the speed limit. My dad thought this was true as he was new to the country and quickly found out by a speeding ticket that it was not. Edit. I'm now realizing that this may vary from state to state and county to county. For my case, South Florida generally tolerates 10 over, but is still technically illegal. This comes from the margin of error of speed radars. They have a 5-mile margin of error normally, and thus people feel it's safe to go 5 over. If you're only going 5 over and get a ticket, you should contest it and make sure to ask when the gun was last calibrated. Yeah, that's what my dad told me as well. He was ticketed in the 2000s/late 90s, but that was an isolated incident. Florida drivers normally go 10 over, and cops do so as well. As long as you are not holding up traffic or going blazing through the streets, you are fine. It's a law that exists, but widely misunderstood, is the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a gov agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. This actually happened to an old high school teacher of mine. He thought he was going on a date with a lady he met online. When they met up for the date, who happened to be an undercover officer, she was like, "I'm not really interested in a date, but $4 I'll do." To which he obliged. He was charged with soliciting a prostitute, but the charges were dropped, since he was only actually interested in the date and had no desire to solicit anything until the officer brought it up. That is exactly the classic scenario that the law is written to prevent. I'm no lawyer, but I don't feel like most of the villains in Scooby-Doo committed any actual crime. I don't think it's against the law to put on a mask and scare some trespassers on your own property. What if there's an abandoned gold mine underneath it? I think it would still belong to the property owner. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.